Hi there. Welcome to the first introduction to Unode Visual Scripting. Today I'll be showing you the user interface and what else you can do with this program. To open up the program, first install it into the Unity Package Manager from the Unity Package Manager. Apologies. And then go to Tools, Unode, Unode Editor. Usually will come up as a floating window. You can dock this wherever you want. This was a test that I made earlier. For now, you need to create a new graph. And there are basically two types of graphs that you can create from. Either a C# graph or a runtime graph, which runs off reflection at the beginning, but can be compiled to pure C#. For now, I'm going to do a pure C# script and make it just a mono behavior that attaches to a game object. Let me save it. I'm just going to call this test graph. I'm going to maximize the Unode Editor by double clicking on the Unode Editor tab here. Usually, it will come with two start methods in Unode, start and update. I just deleted those for now just to make it a bit more simplistic. So in Unode's editor, at the top left where I am right now, you got your three main working areas that you can do. You got the graph over here, the main working space. You got your variables that can work inside of the graph. You can either drag, get, or set from. You have properties which also act like variables, but you can do logic inside of them. Functions / methods is where most of your code is going to happen through code blocks that you can create yourself. You can either use Unity's built-in events or methods to help you with your workflow, or you can simply just act and make your own ones. Let's say, for example, test physics. And I can basically drag this onto the state graph. Now, there's multiple ways what we can do this. So by default, if you take both of those methods out, it will come to the state graph. As a quick FYI. You can also add your events by right-clicking and add event and say start. Start will only run once. And if I rename this to debug my code. And also, you can't have spaces in your methods, as it does not allow this in C#. So debug my code. I'm going to click on this debug my code to go inside of it. I'm going to do a simple debug.log for now. And do hello world. Since this is a C# script and not a runtime graph, I'm going to need to compile this and basically attach this to a game object. I'm going to create a basic cube, and I'm going to compile this graph I'm currently doing with F10, compile current graph, and just wait for Unity's recompilation process to take effect. Once it's done, you can basically attach this to any game object that you want. This is what the mono behavior is for in Unity. So if I go now, here's the graph it generated for me, and here is a prefab that you can go back into the graph that you just made to edit it further. You only need to do this once, the compilation once, and drag the game object onto the cube. If you need to make changes again, go back to the graph, and recompile it with the changes to see effect on the script that you added to your game object. So now, if I press play, it should simply throw out a simple hello world onto the screen in the console. Like this. You can also have your methods inside other methods. Now, let's say, for example, after this debug.log is done, I'm going to do something else. You can either do it in the same method or make a brand new one for organization purposes. So, let us quickly make what I would call a simple physics jump. For that, we're going to need a rigid body on the controller. I type a rigid body, and I call this rigid body. And I simply drag it out, hold down left mouse button and drag it out, and do get. Since we don't have an assigned reference just yet, we can do this on start along with the code. Instead of getting the rigid body, we can just set it. And if this rigid body is attached to this current game object, we can do get component T, click on the get component, click object, and do rigid body. Refresh, and it will be here. And you just simply plug it in. You also have your C# preview, which can show how your current code is working inside of Unode and how the resulting C# graph will be displayed once you're done. Now that I've got my current rigid body, I want to do some physics with it. Let's say, for example, I want to make this thing just go upwards with some force. So I'm going to go to Unity event, game loop, and then fixed update, which physics should always occur in. Now I'm going inside of fixed update. I'm going to drag my rigid body in here and say get. From there onwards, I would like to do add force. I'm going to choose the float type force and with force mode. And simply we could apply that. Since this is a C# graph, it cannot be edited in runtime unless you use another asset. You can promote this to a variable, which allows us to edit this in the inspector of Unity. So promote to variable. So right click on the Y and promote to variable. And then what you call this jump power. And we want this to happen only if we press spacebar on our keyboard. So right click add node and input.get key code key. This will always run. So rather than input get key down, key code key. Refresh. And now hook it up to an if statement. And let's make this from spacebar. Now that we've basically done the code over here, we can simply compile this graph like we would normally with a C# script. So you press F10, compile current graph, and we'll do its magic for you, and re-edit this graph that's over here. I'm going to assign my rigid body that I'm going to add here now, rigid body, and drag it onto here, and let's make the jump power. Let's do like 5. Let me just recompile this quickly. Got to do that change. Yeah, now I'm going to press play. And whenever I press spacebar, you see my cube jumps. Obviously, there's a lot more that can be done with this, but for now, this is a very basic overview of what can be done. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.